Right. Thank you, Rashid and Trevor there. And of course, there are many things that have been incorporated in Clause 76 of the Finance Bill 2023. One of the things is the benefits that you can reap once you start contributing is that you may purchase a home. That is, if you qualify for affordable housing, that is yet to be defined. It is understood that it will be explained later on in regulations by the Finance or the National Treasury Cabinet Secretary and the Housing Cabinet Secretary. But you may withdraw your contributions upon attaining the age of retirement or after 7 years, whichever is earlier. So at this point, there has been a bit of controversy because they're saying that whatever you take out will be subjected to taxation. That is what is on the Finance Bill of 2023, that they will be taxed. I want us to take a look at a sample payslip. Currently, if a person is earning 50,000 shillings, that is in terms of the gross pay, these are the sort of deductions that are coming to their payslip. And at the end of the day, you end up with a net pay of 40,841 shillings. Of course, that is, so far there's no housing levy. So once it's introduced, it is at 3% paid by the employee. That is 3% of 50,000 shillings is 1,500 shillings. So that will be deducted. The calculation this is based on the assumption that the deduction of the housing levy will come before taxation. So before you arrive at the taxable income, then that will have been deducted. Of course, the Finance Bill does not tell the clarity on that, but this is something that you can get clarification about. But after that, then you end up with 39,611. So the net pay will have reduced by about 1,200 shillings. But even as we get into this conversation, I want to start with you, Kwame, because we're seeing this conversation in the Finance Bill, and of course the Finance Bill is what defines how the government is planning to collect revenue to finance their budget. We've just seen some of the estimates. They're talking about 4.5 trillion shillings in terms of overall budget, but the budget for the national government or the country is 3.67 trillion shillings. So if you have the housing levy in the Finance Bill, is that proper that you have it in the Finance Bill, yet it is not something that is in the budget?
No, but please let me just start with this. Kenyans, anybody who has a chance to listen to me, I'm not an elected member of parliament, I'm not seeking election, and I don't work for government. Let me tell you, this is a bad idea. I'm not going to say this is a good idea implemented well. I have to be circumspect and I have to be clear. It's a bad idea. Why? Members of parliament have come here and have told us that this will be a low-cost housing for people who have. There's already a high-cost housing subsidy in Kenya. It's given to members of parliament and people who work in the public sector. They can take mortgages of up to 9 million or thereabouts, and it is funded by you through your taxes. Now, if government wants to build houses for people who live in slums or who are poorer people, that's not a bad thing. Article 43 of the Constitution, just like phrases in the Bible, are misused a lot in Kenya today. The Constitution says that people have a right to housing and other rights. It does not say that government has to force us to pay for it. So Kenya's housing problem is not a problem. There are 14 million houses in Kenya of different qualities, from people who have golf courses next to their houses to the ones that we've seen on TV, which would make you weep if your relatives lived in them. But the problem is not a housing problem. Right here in Nairobi and in this city where we are, there are houses that are actually unoccupied. The problem is that people don't have enough income to be able to pay for it. So we are defining this problem wrong because the PSS and people you are listening to in that other studio have made commitments to people who are supposed to construct houses and give them free land to do that. So we are solving the wrong problem. But let me come to what you've told us. It is also true that if government wanted us to pay for housing and is telling me, for instance, I'm a little privileged, thanks to my employers, so I would not qualify for this housing. I'm not a rich man, but thanks to my employers, I wouldn't qualify. What that means essentially is this. My employer is being taxed, but we're being told it's not a tax. My employer is being taxed, and they'll pay the maximum amount of 2,500, which will be saved from me, and in 7 years or so, I'll have to take out that money or maybe not. The interest rates here are above what government is borrowing at. Government is borrowing at 11 or 12% today. So obviously what this is doing is taxes are being used to redistribute. Redistribution is not a bad thing, but let's not redistribute money among Kenyans through lies. All those complicated things you're hearing here are complete misstatements, and if you put all this money together and the flows over time, this is a fund that would collapse in 7 years.
Just hold on, Kwame. You say that the government officers have made commitments to others, and that's why they have to push this through to finance those. Could you substantiate that?
I am saying the only people who would benefit, and the PS said this clearly here, that they already have people they're calling investors, but are not putting their own money. Those investors are being asked to construct with the certainty that this fund will cover the risk by paying them. If this housing idea was a good idea, the same private investors we are talking about would not need government. They'd simply tell government, guys, let us construct the houses, and then you guys, anybody would offtake. We have an offtake plan, meaning certainty is being provided to whoever does the construction. Okay. So where is this money? Why is this money important? So that a fund is created, which they're calling a fund that helps to cover that risk, so that whoever constructs is assured that government will offtake, and that offtake. So that's where the money. So this is not even a housing scheme.
Okay.
It's a financial structure that's being called a fund. Guys, we need to be truthful with each other as we call the Bible and cite the Constitution. I'm not satisfied that the people who've spoken here either are good Christians because they cited the Bible and that they understand the Constitution well. They have to stop telling us this nonsense.